Hi, Anushka. Thank you for coming here on Design Podcast. This is such a pleasure of mine to have you here, host you here. From your social media, I understand that you are a communication designer from Pearl Institute of Design. And after that, you did so many things. You went as a freelancer, then you have a day job also. Now you work as a UX designer at Ultraviolette, which is like an automotive company. Part time, you are also doing your illustrations. You are an you are an NFT artist, and also recently you got featured in magazines like Grazia and Vogue. So that's like too many things. Don't you think you are doing enough with your life?
I feel like I actually genuinely feel the opposite. I feel like it's never enough. Every day, like 24 hours are less because there's so much more I want to do and keep, diversifying just anything and everything I can create it, whether it's in art or design or food, anything.
Right. Yeah. Also, your Behance profile tells me that you are too much into food, and many of your projects are revolved around food industry.
Yeah.
So बहुत ही exciting चीज़ है. And one unique thing about this podcast and you as a designer, बहुत सारे designers बहुत mainstream काम करते हैं, जो भी उनका discipline होगा या जो भी उनकी field होगी. So they work in that sector. और फिर उनकी expertise या उनका जो भी achievement है वो उसी area में develop होते जाता है. Whereas with you, you are doing so many things, and you are also involved with Web3. So this gives me an opportunity to learn so much about all that aspect, and which is going to bring a very unique value to the audience over here. So welcome again. I'm very excited for this podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is my first podcast ever.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear that. Tell me something that you do so many things. How do you manage your time? Like, how do you find time for everything?
Uh, so I think since I was a child, my parents just put me in so many different things, right? Like whether it was sports or even art classes, and then obviously the regular tuitions and all the thali. But
Hmm.
I've been a sports person since I was like 6, 7 years old. I played volleyball,
Oh,
badminton, basketball, table tennis, athletics,
wow.
yeah, and competition level as well. And apart from that, I used to go for art classes. So I feel like my mom just always wanted to keep me busy throughout the day. So I don't have any idle time. So something or the other used to keep happening. And
Okay.
I feel like growing up, became just this person who was a little above average at everything. Like,
Hmm.
I wasn't brilliant at one particular thing, whether it was sports or studies or anything. I think I was good, but probably not the number one. So what
Hmm.
that made me realize is that it's okay. I don't need to be master of one. I can be jack of all trades as
True.
long as all of those trades are something I really enjoy doing.
Correct,
So
correct.
I just started like even after college, my interest in whatever I'm doing right now just
Hmm.
grew even more after college because before that I was just probably doing things time pass sati. And right, like, then what happened is that I got into a field that I thought was perfect for me. And I realized, oh, I'm actually good at this. And then from that, the passion just, kept on building and nothing could just make me stop at a point. I always had to push boundaries for everything.
Wow. So, when was that? Like when you chose creativity as your career path?
Like, believe it or not, it wasn't me who chose it.
Really? Okay.
And my mom chose that for me, which is
Okay.
very, very surprising for an Indian parent. But
Hmm.
I think she was a creative person herself. She worked
Ah,
in the advertising field for like a year or so when she was younger.
okay.
And she just never took that ahead, but she wanted me to take that ahead. So I was okay with doing anything. I just knew that I don't want to do like studying. So she told me,
Hmm.
okay, you do become a designer. I had a mama also who was a designer. So she's like, okay, you do this one. So I did
Ah.
technical drawing. I studied for entrance exams for like architecture and product design, but
Hmm.
my portfolio was mainly for communication and graphic design. So
Wow.
I prepared, but I did not give the exam for NATA. I did not get through NID. I know you're from NID, but I missed out by like 1 mark, and I was going to apply there for product design. So
Okay.
that also didn't work out because then I kind of just took up communication design because someone told me that, oh, your work is really like interesting for communication design, and I was like, what is that? I had no idea also what that is. So they're like, oh, you see all the graphics and all on posters and movies and everything, illustrations. You can do that, and you can work from a beach also. So I was like, wait, what? I can
What?
work from home because all I need
Wow.
is a laptop. So I
Okay.
was like, okay, sold. I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life.
Who was that person? Such a
I
wise
don't know.
advice.
It was someone from MIT actually, because during some
Ah,
portfolio thing, I got some award for portfolio at MIT. Some guy had come to give that award, and he saw my portfolio and he's like, "You are perfect for communication design."
wow. Okay. And this is at such a young age. As in, I want to address couple of things here. First of all, you said that I am from NID and you didn't go through NID. And last podcast also, I was discussing this with Sushant Vora. Shout out to him.
Yeah,
Amazing guy, amazing product designer. So
yeah,
he was also like we were discussing the same thing that college doesn't really define you as a designer. Your work does, right?
yeah,
So even if you don't get into like that particular dream college of yours, it doesn't going to define you as a designer in future. So that's the best thing to learn from here for the audience, aspiring students, whoever is listening to this
absolutely.
podcast.
I think adding to that also, whether you are from like NID or any other design college, you could even be from an Ivy League, but it doesn't matter if you yourself don't have the drive to do something. That
Correct.
stamp on you is not going to matter.
Right. Yeah. So that is very important to learn from here. And the second thing is that I have done engineering first,
Hmm.
and that engineering was nothing but exploring what I want to do because I didn't know many things. Like I come from a very small town where I only knew two career paths: medical or engineering. I hated biology, so I ended up choosing engineering. And then uh, in engineering, I explored everything. Like I came to Pune, I got exposed to so many career choices and everything. And later in my life, I decided, fine, design is something I want to do. What is super surprising in your case is that in 12th standard only, till 12th standard, you had a clarity that you wanted to do design. Second thing, not just design, somebody also told you to take communication design. So, you went into the next level of niche, that
Yeah.
picking a niche for yourself. So that is very incredible. So tell me something. Uh, what were those things slash projects slash works which created that foundation for communication design before going to design actually?
Got it. So, I don't know if you know the Silica, there's one coaching center. So I had gone enrolled there for preparing for NID. So they had like a lot of interesting um, tasks that had to be done every week, right? Okay, this is the brief and you have to draw this or like problem solve it in this way. So that used to be like a very interesting activity for me every week because I used to look forward to it. And the person who was teaching us at that point was also from NID. Her name was Aditi. So she right now is a very famous origami artist. She's been doing like a lot of really cool origami sculptures. But like her personality and the way she taught us, she really like pushed us to just be creative in any form possible. And I think for me, I was good at drawing. Again, like I said, not the best because I knew a lot of people better than me. But I was good enough at drawing, even in school. School diagrams and all. I used to make it for some of my friends, and I get that elementary, intermediate exam also, which like with like good grades. So art was something I was always interested in. So every time someone would tell me to like think of something, I would end up drawing something to explain myself. So that way, that's what set the foundation for okay, when I'm making my portfolio, I would look at references of other artworks that I would like, and I would try to copy it, try to add my own element of style to that, and yeah, like I would draw continuously.
You mentioned Silica. So, there are many students who messages me and they say that they are in their 10th standard or something like that, and they want to pursue design as a career. And
Mhm.
they ask me that whether they should join a class or whether they should, prepare on their own. I think back then, like during my time, I went to NID in 2011. Okay. So back then the awareness was little less. Maybe the competition was also less. So that time, very few of us used to, go to the class and, formally prepare for everything. Tell me something in today's time, does it make sense to join such coaching classes or it's not worth it? What is your opinion?
I would say that if you look at IIT, if you look at UPSC, they all go for classes, right? I mean, the study material is something that is available regardless, but you go for classes so that you get some guidance to be able to crack an exam that you want to really crack. So I think the approach is the same. Just because design is something that if you put your mind to it and everyone can do it, doesn't mean that a little bit of guidance is harmful. I think if there's also a little bit of accessibility that comes into picture because design is expensive as a career. As design colleges are very expensive, and so are these like preparing for exam centers, right? So they're all a little expensive. If you have the means for it, I think it's definitely a good guidance. Is it a short way to get into where you want to be? I don't believe that, because again, it comes down to each individual how they want to go about it. Because I know people who are designers right now with no formal education in design. Not everyone is good, but the ones who really have the drive, you won't make out that they are not from a design school, because they themselves have pushed themselves to an extent that no, I want to do this and I will learn anyhow.
Very well articulated. I completely agree with that. I think the core foundation of your journey should be the drive.
Yes.
It should be there regardless of whether you go to the class or not, and definitely class and that ready-made materials, it's going to make it a little easier for you, right? So
Example would be, I went to classes to prepare for NID. I got the guidance for it, but I didn't get through NID. So,
but
but
yeah,
what it helped me decide is this what I want to continue doing? And I thought, yes, maybe if this path did not work out, I'll go to some other college, but this is still what I want to do.
correct. I have also gone to some of these institutes for guest lectures and all. So I know what happens in these institutes like Silica, BRDS, and there may be a couple of others. So definitely you will get some kind of a spoon feeding to what exactly is going to happen in your final exam. So it's definitely going to help, and they are definitely expensive. So it's up to you if you want to join them or not, but I think the drive should be there. If you can afford the classes, go for it. Otherwise, I think now on YouTube also, if you're curious enough, there's hell lot of material available, right? So you can actually, now YouTube has become like a university only, like everybody's learning from YouTube. So that drive should be there. Very nicely articulated, and I'm happy that we could address this question. So you went to Pearl Academy. So tell me something. How was the experience at Pearl, and which were those pivotal projects slash moments which carved a path for your future journey?
Yeah, I think after NID, I did not get through NID. Then I applied to MIT, and it's so ironic that the person who told me I should do communication design, he gave me an award for my portfolio. He was from MIT, but I was waitlisted at MIT, and I did not get through because their cap for the year was done. So I was like, this is ridiculous. Where do I go next? The other option was Shrishti, but I wasn't at that point keen on going to Shrishti in Bangalore. So there was Paul Academy, which was very close to my house in Bombay. Wow. And I did, like, it was a fairly new college because like the college was there for 20 plus years in Delhi and Jaipur and all. But in Bombay, it was like the second year when I was going to join it. Okay. So I think that was also a risk that my parents only took for me because they were like, I don't want you to skip out on a year. So this seems like a really good college, so go for it. And I would say, at least in my time, I have no idea how the college is right now, how the people are, because I'm a little out of touch from at least the people, because it's been more than 3 years since I passed out. But when I was at Pearl, it was amazing. And again, like different people have different experiences, like fashion people had a different experience, product designers had a different experience. But for me, I think my biggest, like what I'm really grateful for was the people I got in my class. Like all 30 of us for 4 years, I think that was what made Pearl worth it, because we were so close as a class, and for everything we were all very curious. We were all like putting in our 100% to do whatever was asked of us and doing beyond. So I think Pearl, if I have to just encapsulate it, it was the people for me, and not just like my class people, but even the faculty that we had. They were just really nice. They became like very good friends with us by the end of it. And another thing would be like the curriculum at Pearl was genuinely like unlike the other colleges, because we did not have a permanent faculty teaching us a certain thing. So every year we had certain modules, and industry professionals would come and teach us those modules. So it wasn't like in a week we have three different things happening. For 3 months, we were only focusing on one thing. So, say we had photography for 3 months, then we had typography for 2 months, we had branding for 2 months. Very cool. So it gave like a really good in-depth, process to explore all of these things. And the people who came and taught us this were industry professionals. So they were coming in with like the latest thing happening in the industry. That was very cool. I want to come into your next question about some pivotal projects that I did in college, right? So obviously we're college students, not very exposed to what is actually happening in the industry, apart from what college is telling us, "Ki, okay, this is happening, that is happening." So I don't know about Curious. Um,
Curious, of course, I
you know
know.
what's
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
So Curious had come to college to tell us that okay, this
Acha,
competition is happening.
sorry, for the students who are not aware of Curious,
Yeah.
can you just explain, like, can you just give little bit
Uh,
information of Curious
yeah.
Design Awards?
So Curious Design Awards is like one of the biggest awards that happen in India for students as well as professionals, and they also have a yearly conference that happens in usually Goa called Design Yatra, where speakers from all over the world come and give talks, and we can interact with them, etc. So at that point in college, we had no idea about this, which is why the college telling us that okay, there is something like this that exists, and Curious had come to college telling us, ki, okay, apply for these awards, it's happening, we have briefs and everything. So that was when I got introduced to Curious the first time, and I participated in the competition. Me and my friend, we did a project for a Nestle brief, which got me an award. So that was like the starting point of my career actually, because without that milestone happening so early on in my career, I don't know how much I would have achieved already, because that kind of set the pace for, oh, this feels really good. I did something and I got rewarded for it. So I want to keep doing this. I want to keep pushing myself. So this project happened while college was going on. So apart from doing college work, we were taking out time in the day to work on this project as well. So yeah, that was really fun. So that Curious Young Blood Award, I still have my trophy at home. So yeah, that was one of my most precious awards.
Definitely. Actually, everybody should check Anushka's Behance profile. She has some amazing, work over there. And what I really liked is that this explains the importance of, entering into these competition. First of all, you are, pushing your comfort zone. You are not doing what everybody in the class is doing. You are doing something extra, which is going to give you edge in the long run. And other than that, it's going to give you a validation, like if you end up winning that award, or at least being there as finalist or something like that, it's going to give you a drive, which is going to take you to different places. And there you can get a platform where you can see, analyze your own work. You can compare it with other competition.
Yeah, in fact, the thing is, as a student, is the best time to apply for awards, because I think when you get into the professional level, right, and that time
Hmm.
you're applying for awards, there are some biases that come into the picture from the industry side only,
Correct.
because usually they give more preference to like agencies or like designers who've already won a lot of things,
Hmm.
and there's also like paid stuff, like you
Hmm.
pay to enter into a competition to be able to win it. So I
Correct.
feel like all of that later on becomes a little more complicated. But as a student, most of the awards that are there for students, whether it's Curious or DNAD, One Club for Creativity, so all of these awards are very unbiased, because that is done purely on the work that you have put out,
Right.
and the jury will see how much work has gone into it. And
Right.
apart from the validation, even if you don't win an award, I think working on a project like that is extremely like rewarding in your career growth, because you are tackling a project by yourself, which later on, when you become a professional, you will
Right.
be doing on a daily basis. So
Right.
this
Yeah.
kind of becomes a precursor to that. And even if you
Hmm.
don't win an award, it gives you enough feedback to make it better the next time.
Hmm.
So yeah, as a student, I think participating in awards is the best thing ever. Later on, it's like up to people whether they like going in awards or no. But yeah, students definitely should.
Awesome. That is a very important point which we have discussed. After Pearl, I saw your final project, which was around food. It was called Junkie, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah.
So tell us more about that, because there is something very unique about it and something to learn from it.
Yeah, so again in Pearl, we did not have, so we had an internship period, but that was done in our third year. Our fourth year graduation project was left up to us. Whatever you
Ah,
want to do, because they said that this is the last time you will get to do something just for yourself for this long a period of time. Because once you start jobs, you will be working on different projects for different clients, and doing personal work might get difficult. So 6 months, just do whatever you want. Make sure you use all the skills you have learned over 4 years and
wow.
utilize that. So yeah, out of those 6 months, I think the first 3 months was just research for me, and I had no idea what to do, because again, like there was so many things on my mind. I had just 3 or 4 notebooks filled with just ideas of what I could do. But
Okay.
I was like, this is still not clicking, it's still not clicking. Is this what I want my final project to be? And again, even at that point, I had it in my mind that I want to win an award for this project. Like, I don't care. My
Wow.
motivation was I need an award for this. What can I do that will get me an award? So that was like I backtracked from that. And yeah, like talking about food, I have been a fitness enthusiast for 8+ years now. And
Oh,
at that point, I think I was also at my fittest. So I was very much inclined towards, bridging the gap between what people know about fitness and health versus,
mm,
art and design. So like, how do I combine both of them in a more cohesive manner that will be interesting for even someone who's not really into fitness and all can still enjoy.
very
So
interesting.
yeah, like I started research with DNA, with human evolution, with like so many different things. And for 3 4 months, it was just not happening because there was a point where so every month we used to have a jury and
Hmm.
we had to show updates on what we've done. After the fourth month, I just stopped having updates because I had no idea what to do. I kind of also went into like a creative block. So again, at that point, I took some time off my grad project and I participated in the DNAD Awards.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, okay, I need something to take my mind off of it. So I did
Hmm.
that project. And while I was doing that project, an idea struck my mind, and I came back to this and applied it for my graduation project.
Wow.
So the whole idea with the grad project Junkie was people see drugs and alcoholism as like negative addictions, right?
Hmm.
And it's always shown in a certain way, and it just looks there's negative vibes around drugs and alcohol. So what I was looking at is when someone is addicted to food, it has the same impact on your brain because addiction is addiction. What you're
Hmm.
addicted to, your brain cannot actually make the difference between them. It's just addicted to something.
Hmm.
So the whole idea of that project was, what if I show the addiction of food in a negative light so that people understand that food addiction is also not the most positive thing because it can cause like so many different problems going ahead.
Hmm.
So the whole experience, I wanted to make it like an exhibition experience. I thought, okay, since my major is graphic design, I am expected to like make a book or something or like do a branding project, but I did not want to do that. I thought, I just want people to experience whatever I'm doing. So I combined
Okay.
all of my skills because we had an experience design module, we had graphic design module, we had photography, we had like some UI UX module as well. So I thought let's just combine everything and make something
Wow.
cool. So I made like I got a room in college. I set it up in like pink and purple lights. I set up a table. The inspiration for this came from Alice in Wonderland's Mad Hatter Tea Party.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I set up a table with like plates and food and a cake, and all of these things had like illustrations on it. And the illustrations were made to look in such a way that people are eating food, but it looks disgusting, like your mukbang videos. So the same feeling you get when you look at people who are overdosing on drugs. So I
Hmm.
try to replicate that for people eating with food, and I added a layer of augmented reality also on it, where when you try to scan the illustration with your camera, it starts moving and it gives you a message. So stuff like, are you really hungry or are you just bored?
Oh.
No room to breathe, but room for dessert. Addicted to something. So all of these messaging stuff was there, and there were like little elements throughout the room to make you feel like, oh, there's food on the table, but I don't feel like eating it because of the way it's presented.
Hmm. Correct.
So yeah, that was a very interesting project I did, which got me like some 4 different awards. So
Wow.
yeah,
So your main goal was achieved.
yes, it was.
Which were those awards?
One, I got my Paul Academy Award for like one of the best projects. I got a NASCOM award,
Very
um,
cool. Okay.
Taiwan International Design Finalist Award, and
Awesome.
there was one more I can't remember now.
You can't remember the award which you won. So that
Yeah,
shows how many awards.
I don't remember the last
Wow.
one.
Okay, awesome. Awesome, Anushka. So tell me, when you completed all your education at Pearl, how did your professional journey start? Like, which was your first project as a professional designer?
I think my professional journey started before I graduated
Really?
because yeah, I started freelancing since first year of college itself. Like first year towards the end, right, like during summer vacation time, I wanted some pocket money, like extra pocket money. I started like doing photography. I was also doing logo projects and stuff like that. And it was like it just started as a small thing because I used to post my illustrations on Instagram even before college.
Okay.
So someone reached out to me to make a logo, and then that person gave my contact to someone else for something else. So that's how the network started forming. And I constantly had something or the other to design for. I was doing photography on the side for like a couple of friends who were fashion bloggers at that time. So
Awesome.
my professional journey actually started in first year of college, and I think year on year the clients kept getting better because like it went from being a one-off person who just wants to start a home brand to like companies like Tata and Denso.
Wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, uh, and then obviously I did the awards. So after getting the award, I got even more contact for getting work. So again, for students, if you do awards and you win an award, that also adds an accolade to your portfolio, which means you'll get more work from other people after they see your work and credibility. So
Hmm.
that also really helps when you participate in awards like that. So after college, I actually got into like campus placement into Accenture
Hmm.
uh, for again a role that I was not prepared for at all
What was
because
the role?
it was UI UX.
Okay.
So over 4 years in communication design, we were taught about these different modules in like 2 3 months, like short periods of time. UI UX was part of it. I did not want to take it ahead. So in my fourth year, instead of majoring in UI UX, I majored in graphics. So we had to
Hmm.
choose between the two in our fourth year. So I did not do UI UX. I only did graphics.
Okay.
And after college, during our placements, I got placed in Accenture because at that point it was the highest paying job that had come to college. So I was like, it's okay. I just want to move to Bangalore, so I'll just do whatever job is okay. So
Hmm.
I got into UI UX because they like my portfolio and stuff. And I actually learned UI UX on the job at Accenture, which
Okay.
was again like a revelation because in corporates, it's like there's so many people doing so little work everywhere that you actually get enough time to learn things on
Right.
the project, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I learned UI UX on the job, but I got very bored in like 1.5 year because it was
Okay.
like making dashboards and all and just giving a facelift to existing procedures. So I just thought that this is not the best use of my creative mind. There's like so many things I want to do. It got to a point that my freelance work was way more interesting than the work I was doing at Accenture.
Hmm.
So yeah, like in the middle of it, even like pandemic happened. So I was doing like really interesting projects on the side. I got a collaboration with Adobe,
Wow.
Halloween illustration. I keep doing this 36 days of type project every year. So
Hmm.
that also happened to a level that taught me a lot of international projects as well. So all of this in the last 2 years has been really good. I think pandemic for me was not the worst thing because it helped me grow my career more. So yeah, and like after I got just done with Accenture, I said I cannot do this anymore. I don't want this, money where I'm just getting paid for doing nothing. Like I feel like I'm
Hmm.
wasting my time now. So I left the job, and yeah, then Ultraviolet happened.
Yeah. So, okay, now that we have connected the dots, tell me something that how ultraviolet happened because you were never into automobile industry, right? Like
No,
you were not at all interested in automobiles.
zero,
See,
zero.
so how did you land, in automobile industry and that too ultraviolet?
Yeah. So Ultraviolet reached out to me actually, and at that point, I was just so done with Accenture. I was like, okay, I need a switch. And the first company that's come to me is an automotive company, and not just automotive, EV. So I was like kind of looking at the EV industry in general because there was Ather that was already existing at that point, and
Correct.
like my boyfriend was about to buy an Ather anyway. So I had
Wow.
just like some idea about it. And when Ultraviolet approached me, I thought, ki, okay, let's just do an interview because I haven't done an interview in a while. Let's just practice and I'll see, like, I'll apply it to different places after this, right? So I just agreed to the interview, and to my surprise, I came to office and Narayan was there. Narayan's the CEO of Ultraviolet.
Narayan
So,
Subramanian, yeah.
yes. So he was there, and I had the interview with him. He had given me a quick assignment to do as well. But the conversation that I had with him, I think it lasted around like 3.5 hours, which was insane because we were talking about like so many different things, not just like my work. And that conversation was so interesting and intriguing. I thought, if the CEO of a company can talk to like someone is hiring like this, I'm pretty sure the company's culture must be very, very in line with how I want to be as a designer. Because
Right.
like stuff that he was talking about, everything is made in house. Everyone's just pushing their limits to get things done, and everyone's passion is like really in the right place. So I thought like me as a designer, I've always believed in like being multidisciplinary. I don't want to stick to just one thing. I want to keep exploring and I want to push the limits in each of those things that I do. So
Mm.
like that conversation with Narayan is actually what sold me to join Ultraviolette. Even though I had like zero interest, zero knowledge about anything in automotive, had never driven. I had a license, but I never driven. I did not, ride a bike or a scooter, nothing. So it was like taking me out of something I'm comfortable with and a totally uncomfortable with different sport. But I think
Mm.
that was beautiful for me because whatever I do at Ultraviolet right now is exactly how I imagine a job to be like. Is I don't want to be stuck to one thing. I get to explore like a lot of different things, and Narayan's given like a lot of open-ended responsibility. You want to do this, just take it ahead, make sure it's done to its best capacity.
Correct.
So that's really
Wow.
really nice.
Wow, awesome. So do you ride a bike now? Have you
I tried.
ridden F77?
I have tried
You
it.
have? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So you are one
Finally,
of those privileged people, right?
I mean, I work on it. I have to. So yeah, I have tried it, and that was the first time I ever rode a motorcycle. I do ride the
Wow.
Ather now, but yeah, motorcycle first is F77.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. So, yeah, definitely. I know Narayan personally, and I have had conversations with him about the studio culture. And as I was telling you before, I know many of your colleagues, Akash, Akshay, Aniket. So yeah, as
They're
in,
gonna be so surprised seeing this. Genuinely, I can't wait to tell them.
I hope it's gonna be a like positive surprise. It shouldn't be a shock.
I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, so awesome story for Ultraviolet. Definitely, it's something, when something is supposed to happen, it happens anyhow.
Yeah.
So I
And
think this.
again, like like I told you about my graduation project also, I just wanted to combine all of my different skill sets and put it to use to make one like more cohesive thing. So the
Hmm.
same thing is happening with me at Ultraviolet as well because I don't have a specific role in just like one cohort of design. I do.
Correct.
I had the UI UX and the brand, and I'm able to like just combine these things to just make something that I think this is the best possible outcome of combining different things. It's like cooking, right? You just put different ingredients together to make something final like that.
Hmm.
So I think I've always seen design like that, and I'm so happy that I get to practice design the way I always wanted to.
Wow, awesome, awesome. Now let me address a little different topic, which is about metaverse, Web 3.0, or NFTs. You know, during this pandemic, NFT market, NFT is basically, for those who don't know, NFT is non-fungible token. It's a booming industry past couple of years that has got a lot of traction, and it has helped so many artists around the world. They get finally paid the value, or they got recognition through this amazing world of NFTs. And I was discussing this with Anushka before. So she has also minted few NFTs. She has been doing illustrations, and for that she got featured in magazines like Vogue and Grazia. So because this is a fairly new topic, and I presume that many of the audience who are watching this, उनको शायद पता नहीं होगा कि क्या होता है NFT और उसमें क्या होता है. So can you just give a very quick introduction to what is all this
Hmm.
and what have you done till now?
Okay, so if I get into explaining blockchain right now, I think that will be a separate discussion in itself.
For
So
sure,
I'm gonna
but
just
there's
put it on
enough
the
material on YouTube,
So I
so
would say knowing blockchain is what you need to know. Other than
okay.
that, for NFTs, the way I would put it together is something I also took a lot of time to understand. Like when the NFTs were like all of the rage, I did not jump onto the wagon right away. I took at least a year to finally make my first NFT, and I was very skeptical about it as well because I did not understand it. And I think that's what the entire world is also facing right now because not everyone understands it. So there is a lot of like negativity also around it. What I did not understand first is what everyone had the same doubt about. Ki it's just a JPEG. Like you can
Correct.
just take a screenshot and sell it. Now what's the
Exactly.
whole deal about it?
Yeah.
So from what I understood is that the artworks that have been there in museums all this while, or like big painters who sell their original paintings, there is
Hmm.
something tangible to sell it with, right? It's a canvas that you sell. with
Exactly.
digital art, so with the boom of digital art, it was difficult to sell anything because you could essentially do that screenshot and JPEG and just sell it like that, right?
Correct.
So what NFTs did is a revolution for digital art as well as traditional art, obviously, but it puts the artwork on the blockchain, which gives you a stamp that this is the original artwork.
Hmm.
So when you buy it, you get the rights for that artwork, right? It's like buying an original Mona Lisa versus buying copies of it. Only the person who's bought the original Mona Lisa has the pride to show it off. Oh, this is the original one. So
Correct.
similar with digital art, I can make an illustration right now. I can make 10 copies of it also, but the person who owns the original one knows that this is the value of an original artwork.
He has
So
that what do you say,
yes,
possessing right and
yes,
putting it
yes, for the
everywhere.
this is the original one, right?
Correct.
So that's the simplest way to put an NFT.
Awesome.
And the valuation of each NFT is still very, up and down based on who is making it, based on, if there are organizations making it, or there's like multiple different factors to it. So
Hmm.
it's not like every NFT is like super expensive. There are very, affordable ones as well, but it becomes an asset because, you just own an original artwork by someone, it becomes an asset. The only moving variable over here is that the market with crypto itself is a little volatile. So
Right.
the value of each asset can go high and like really low very quickly
Hmm.
till it stabilizes because people are still getting used to it. It's not mainstream yet,
Yeah.
but the minute it does get mainstream, I think it is definitely something which is gonna be the future. There are
Hmm.
either the really popular already existing artists who are coming up with NFTs and it's already valued really high
Correct.
versus people who are just starting out but they show major potential and people really want to bet on their potential. I
Hmm.
think like that the NFT community in itself is very supportive of each other because
Hmm.
they want the best for each artist. It's not a competition who is doing better. If you're making money out of it, great. I will also do it at some point, but I will not stop, producing more work.
It's all in its nascent stage. It's
Yeah.
quite early for everything, so definitely that volatility will be there. I also believe a lot in that blockchain technology, and when it comes to NFT market, definitely there is a lot of negativity all around. But I keep studying about it. I haven't minted an NFT, but I see some use case in future scenario, like when this becomes a mainstream thing.
Hmm.
So maybe big platforms like Google and everywhere, they will also have blockchain technology supporting it, and maybe
Sure.
the
Yeah.
regular images also they'll be in the format of NFTs. So
Yeah.
many things are gonna happen, and I feel whether to buy it, invest it or not, but I think you should keep a track of this industry wherever it is.
Definitely, definitely. Because there's one part where you are buying someone's artwork as an asset, the way you would buy regular painting, right? Like there is no
Correct.
use case for it except that this has some value.
Correct. Yeah.
So that is one aspect. Then there are some organizations and brands that are coming onto the on board that are kind of also giving perks with an NFT.
Hmm.
So I think someone just did a concert where only like a certain number of people could attend it. Like say the Bored Ape NFTs, people who hold a Bored Ape NFT are the only ones who can attend this concert. So also
Correct.
like a lot of exclusivity for brands are also coming onto the
Yeah,
platform
yeah.
now.
So as you
So
said, there are many artists who are like performing in virtual world in metaverse using
yeah,
Fortnite platform. So I
yeah,
think Ariana Grande started it, I guess, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, yeah. I was Ariana. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so many things are happening. So keep that negativity aside. I think what I would like to conclude this part with is that keep a track of this, keep
Yes,
learning this blockchain technology, because whatever happens to this, blockchain is not going anywhere. I think
anywhere.
it has a very strong use case, and it's going to stay here. Whether it's going to be in this format or not, that's another discussion. But
Yes.
at least keep a track of it. Now, tell me, Anushka. Because these projects got featured in some of the reputed magazines like Vogue. How did that happen? What was that artwork?
So Vogue actually was a very, very big surprise for me also. So Grazia happened right before that. Grazia was more like an artist feature. A writer reached out to me and said they wanted to feature me as an artist in their issue. So I was like, okay. And then like right after that, some 2 weeks later, Vogue also reached out and they actually were collaborating with me on a project for Vogue China. So I that's something that's going to go live very soon. It's a metaverse
Okay.
project, and
Wow.
after that goes live, I'm also doing a collaboration with Vogue Global to do a one-of-one NFT project. So some
Wow.
10 variations of an artwork are going to be sold, out of which like some percentage I'll keep, some percentage Vogue will keep, and some of it is going to go for UNESCO's Save the Wave campaign. So again, that's a
Mm.
useful side, like because it becomes like a charity thing as well. You are going and putting it towards a good cause. So that's gonna come up. But the Vogue India feature, just like someone from Vogue India reached out that they wanted to just put my artwork in the NFT section of their September issue. So yeah, that was just like an artwork featured in the magazine. But what's coming up ahead is a literal collaboration with Vogue for selling
Wow.
NFTs.
That's like a huge thing for an artist. Tell me, how do you balance these two things?
And balancing the two, I think like I mentioned earlier, because I've always wanted to do something that, just takes all of my interests and puts them together into a good culmination. I think fashion also was something that growing up I had a lot of interest in. My
Mhm.
mom always had these Vogue magazines lying around, and so me getting featured in Vogue also was such an emotional moment for me because it's like I've done this all my childhood and now my work is in Vogue, so I was like super emotional.
Yeah.
But even apart from that, I think graphic design was one, then UI UX was one, and my illustrations and branding is one. I also got into apparel now. Like I had my own collection of t-shirts that are designed with warping theories. It's a
Wow.
streetwear brand.
Mhm.
So that was again like me venturing out into another form of design, because I feel like foundation of design is the same for everything.
Mhm.
So Massimo Vignelli's quote, "If you can design one thing, you can design everything," is something that I really like believe in, because I think that's what design schools also help with. Like they're
Mhm.
not telling you exactly what to do; they're setting the foundation for your design very well, so that if you understand that, you can put that creative mind to like any medium. Tomorrow I can also start making furniture. Tomorrow I can start actually contributing to my vehicle design team in Ultraviolette also, because I know the foundation. Maybe I don't know the specific skills required for a certain cohort, but that
Mhm.
can be learned over time as well. It's not like just because you did not do this in your foundation years means that you can never do it, right?
Wow. Yeah, that quote which you mentioned is really powerful, I would say. And you know, whatever you do, whichever the business it might be, like you said, t-shirt design, uh, it's basically just expanding your art avenue to a different product, right?
Yes.
Nothing more than that.
Yeah.
Because as a designer, you build this sense of aesthetics which can marry the functionality.
Yeah.
And if you understand that, if your skill set is doing that in the most efficient way, then you can apply it to any product.
Yeah.
And that's when even I get little agitated when people call or people tie themselves only with one product. There's nothing wrong with it, but sometimes it becomes necessary to just get attached to one product.
Yeah.
Like for example, I don't want to disrespect anyone, but let's say a person from automobile industry. So I have seen few people who are just curious about only one product, which is car, and
Yeah.
then they'll only develop their niche. Maybe that's working for them, but in my opinion, in today's time, modern times, design is branching out into so many things
Yeah.
that you need to be aware of everything. And that's why even if I'm not interested in NFTs or minting NFTs and all that, but I would like to keep a track of it. I would like
Of
to
course.
know where that industry is going. I would like to know t-shirt industry also. I would like to know the apparel industry also. And it's up to me you merge both of them. Like for example, like if my passion is motorcycles and scooters, let's say, and I also love apparel design, I can just combine them too. I can create some nice illustrations of
Of
motorcycle,
course.
print them. There are so many companies which are doing that, and
Of course.
that's
In
gonna
fact,
create. Yeah.
and one addition to that, since you mentioned that automotive designers mainly just stick to like one product that they really like and they just make a niche for themselves, which is great. But I think even with making that niche, I think automotive designers are one of the most skilled artists. The
Right.
way, like the command over the hands that they have, right, with all the line work and shading and the whole
Yes.
visualization in 3D, everything. I would say automotive designers are actually capable of doing any sort of design over there, but they just stick to one thing. So I think if they just venture out a little bit outside of cars and bikes and like start making some illustrations for like a little different area of topics as well, they
Hmm.
could become illustrators on the side where they can do so many more things, and also that will also help them build their automotive skills even more, because I really believe that when you do one thing, of course you're building a skill in that. But when you do something else and then come back to the one thing you're good at, it elevates it even more because you kind of break out of what you're comfortable with. You go
True.
into your uncomfortable zone, learn something new, and then you can apply it back to what is your strength. So, like, yeah, thanks for putting that out there.
Yeah, no, thanks for articulating it. And it's completely valid point. I think we should address this in today's time. And awesome. So we are, addressing so many things, and I think there is so much value which we are, putting out there, because through this conversation we are also addressing many points and we are putting out our opinions. If there are, if other audience like who is listening to this, they have different opinion, please feel free to let us know. It's just two people's opinion, so you can
Yeah.
also put your opinion and we can have this discussion going on.
Yeah, that's one more thing. Like, I feel like opinions right now are taken so seriously. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous because it's just my opinion. It's just your opinion. If you
right,
agree with it, great. If you disagree with it, just mention that, okay, you disagree and you have another opinion. That's your
right.
opinion, right?
Nobody
Everyone's
needs to get
entitled to an
offended and
opinion.
all,
Yeah,
right?
there's no fact in opinions.
Let's come to the final part of this podcast, that now that you have conquered so many things, you have won so many awards, now you're gonna get collaboration with Vogue and all that. How do you see your future, like what do you want to become after like 5-10 years? This is sounding like a very typical interview question.
No, but
But what
I
is
have
your...
already thought about it.
Oh, okay. Awesome, awesome, that's
Yeah.
great.
So obviously that thought also is like a few years in the making right now. It might change by the time I get to that point. But I always wanted to have like a studio sort of environment where I don't do just one thing, where I can do photography also, I can do design also, I can do some fashion stuff also, I can do cooking also. So that's
Wow.
like the dream, to have something of my own. But even before that, I think what, because I love food so much, like you already know, some of my, so before Ultraviolet, most of my projects used to be just food. For some reason, like I would just be drawn towards something related to food and do a project in that. So I genuinely like food, and I think during the pandemic, I started cooking very regularly than I used to before that. And
Wow.
while cooking, I just realized that this is so therapeutic to me. I really want to take up food, even like apart from my design. So I think in a few years, when I definitely will reach a saturation point with design, I think I want to take up a course and become a chef for some time and apply design foundations into food, and like
Wow.
incorporate it in some or the other way. I don't know. It's just something that's on my mind. Whether I do it or no is a separate thing, but definitely want to combine food and design in an interesting
Now that you have put it out there on social
manner.
media, on YouTube, this is gonna get manifested for sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So yeah, awesome. So tell me, Anushka, how do you keep yourself motivated? Because you have so many things going on, and you are pretty young actually. You are what? What is
25.
it? 25, right?
I don't think there is any science or this thing behind it. I just love creating anything.
Awesome.
Like I just love doing something or the other. I think sitting idle is something I should do sometimes, but I struggle to do it because something or the other I'll take up and I'll make it. But just the love for creating has become so strong after I realized that I'm good at something, that it just keeps me going. That okay, this one is done now. Let's go on to the next thing. Let's go on to the next thing. It's never enough.
Well, and because you said you love food and you are into fitness, so tell me something. How do you feel that fitness and making right choices for food and everything, how does it help to, stay creative and focused in your daily life?
I think with fitness, there is one thing that is the most important when it comes to fitness, and it's discipline.
Hmm.
It's discipline and consistency, and both of those things have actually helped me a lot in my creative and professional journey because, like I said, as a child, I was a sports person, so I had to be a certain way. I had to wake up at a certain time, go practice at a certain time,
Hmm.
prepare for competition at a certain time, and eat a certain kind of diet. And there's like a
Wow.
lot of things that come into place when you are into sports.
Hmm.
And that kind of discipline and consistency of doing it every single day is what also helped me with my creative journey, because when I started drawing and I started posting it on Instagram and all, I would just make something and post it regularly just to make sure that okay, I'm doing something and I'm getting better, because obviously that whole thing at practice makes you better, not perfect, is very true, because the more you practice something, you'll keep getting better at it. And you'll
Hmm.
only practice more if you're disciplined and consistent about getting better at something, right? So I
Right.
think that way, fitness and food also, because I watch a lot of Chef's Table, Master Chef, and everything, right? So
Okay.
the way food lovers and food critique and chefs describe food is unparalleled, because when we eat food, like regular people eat food, you just go like, wow, that was yum, or that was really bad. But
Correct.
when food lovers and critiques, they describe food, there's like, you can just write paragraphs and stories about the way they describe each feeling, every like feel of what they've eaten, the textures, the flavors,
Hmm.
everything, right? So watching all these food shows really helped me articulate my ideas really well.
Wow. Okay.
Even when I'm selling some ideas to a client, when I'm explaining something, I'm able to take a two-word description into a two-paragraph description, just by
Hmm.
extending the feeling of what those two words are. So I
Wow.
think food and fitness in that way have really, really helped my creative journey. And I'm only answering this right now because it's the first time someone has asked me this. But I can't believe this was already in my mind, but I've never really said it to someone.
Wow.
So thank you for asking me that. I'm going to use it everywhere now.
I'll take the credit for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so awesome, Anushka. I think what you said makes a lot of sense because you must have seen all these automobile designers because now you have access to them. When we see a motorcycle or car, we go gaga over small small
Yes.
details here and there, right? Yeah, we
I
are
see it
little
on a
crazy.
daily basis. And I'm just like, I don't know what you all just said.
Yeah, we have that bad trait. My wife is a victim of it. So, yeah. So, but yeah, definitely it can be related very well with how food critics are describing the food. And I think, be it any product, if you are like really passionate about it, you will go into each and every detail, and then you will find out a story for that.
Yes.
Now, that brings me to one of the final questions that because you have done freelancing, and now many designers out there, they are choosing freelancer as their side gig
Hmm.
or main gig, I don't know. So what would be your suggestion to them, like let's say if somebody has just started doing freelancing, and if say he or she is struggling a lot to get clients or good projects or something like that, what would be your advice for them?
I actually don't know, because I don't think I have the guts to go completely freelance, at least for a few more years. So the people who do freelancing as their main gig, big kudos to them, because they are brave.
Right.
And mainly because there is no fixed income, right, with freelance. Some
Yeah,
days
yeah,
it
yeah.
might be like brilliant, some days it might not. So
Correct.
for me, on a personal level, I don't like that kind of ambiguity when it comes to my income.
Hmm.
So I have a very, very intriguing and very satisfying day job, because I'm lucky to be working at a place like Ultraviolet where design comes first, right? So I have that. The reason I do freelance now is only to build my skills constantly. So right
Hmm.
now for me, it's not just about like the extra money that's coming in from freelance, but because taking up freelance work helps me better my skills at multiple different things, which I can then also use in my day job and contribute even better to what I'm building towards, right? For
Hmm.
most of my day. So freelance, when I started, it was for like extra pocket money. And when I was in Accenture, it was more for, oh, I'm getting bored in Accenture and I want more money to come out of it. So I was
Hmm.
doing freelance. But I've reached a stage in freelance right now where I'm doing it purely because I really enjoy what I do. And doing the same thing over and over again in a day job might just kind of, like you said, no, automotive people just do one thing and they make that a niche.
Hmm.
I never want to stick to a niche. So I have something I'm practicing every day in my day job for UI UX for brand, but I cannot just get sucked into that for the rest of my life. I want to explore more things so that the learnings from those projects can also add to my everyday job.
Wow, awesome. That brings me to the final question. So now that whatever you have experienced till now, do you have any words of wisdom or suggestions or advice to all upcoming designers or people who are already there, who starting their design journey? Any suggestion?
Oh man, I just give so much gyan all the time.
No, it's good. No,
But
this podcast is all about giving gyan only, so it's okay.
no, so again, like I just think people who get too bookish about design, I think people should stop doing that, because design is in its most stripped out form something to solve for something, and you cannot find a solution in a book. This is not science, this is not math ki there is a right answer for everything.
Correct.
Everything in design and art is very subjective. What worked 100% for one person will work 0% for another person. And if you stick to rules, you will definitely not be able to make something that is yours. So I think this specifically comes towards UI UX designers. Um, some people are really open that way, that they use UI UX laws as like foundations to work on. But then I also personally know people who take them so seriously that they won't explore anything beyond the law. And it makes no sense, because human psychology is not set in stone, it's constantly evolving, and all these UX laws are based on human psychology. So you have to keep evolving, you have to keep trying out new things and not like stick to bookish rules, because if you stick to that, you're really not going to like make anything out of this world, and definitely not something that's going to add to existing things. If you, as a designer, one should definitely think of, what am I adding to the world that's going to stick through for a while, and like maybe someone will remember me for it. I think that should be a motto for every designer, for sure, because we have the power to do that. We have the power to like just change people's behaviors, change
Correct.
people's mindsets, and doing this at large is a huge, huge like responsibility and power to do. So
Wow, that's kind that is kind of setting the tone for this podcast. It is so cool. It is so well articulated, and it's making so much sense. And just to summarize that point, I think what you were saying is that maybe one plus two is equal to three according to that book, but find a way to reach out to that final three in multiple ways, and that's going to create that extra edge for you as a designer.
yeah,
So it might be pi minus 2 is equal to
yeah,
3, but
correct.
find out those ways. So maybe you go by the book, you learn what is 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, and then you find out a way to do it, put your own creativity and
Yes.
create that edge for yourself. And there couldn't have been a better way to finish this podcast. That is such a important message for designers. So they can treat it as a takeaway from this podcast. Anushka, thank you so much for coming here and joining for this podcast, taking out a time on a Sunday for
Thank you
just
for having me. I'm
audience
so
like.
happy I did this.
I'm very happy, and I'm very happy that I got a chance to interact with a person from a very different industry. Keep
Definitely.
enlightening everyone. Keep be active on your social media. Keep sharing your work. All the best for your collaborations and many exciting projects which are going to come ahead of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was amazing. I love this.
I hope it didn't get too boring for you.
No, I love this. Doing this design gyan thing is my favorite thing to do.
Okay, I'm super glad that we could do this.